I received a comment stating that my dog is anxious because I am an anxious person too. And if I was a calm, composed person, my dog would have no behavior issues, would not be reactive, would not be anxious, fearful, whatnot. This is something that you might come across quite often in a dog training advice on the internet, so let's unpack it. And to be clear, I'm a dog trainer and behavior consultant, so I'm not just thinking and speaking what I feel like. I'm going to speak from what we know in terms of science, in terms of animal learning, in terms of dealing with animals, both of clients' animals, animals in the shelter, and stuff like that. Okay, let's study this concept. So if the dog owner is calm, the dog is calm too. Is that true? The interesting part is that the answer is no, but sometimes yes. So let's dive deep into it. Let's unpack the no part. I'm going to give you 2 examples explaining why calm owner doesn't mean the dog will be calm as well. First of all, we can look at people who have multiple dogs. If you have more than 1 dog in your household, especially if you have 3, 4, 5, 6 dogs, any person has multiple dogs, they will tell you that all these dogs have different personalities, they have different confidence levels. Some dogs will be more confident in different situations, but not confident in other situations. Some dogs will be super resilient and confident in all situations, and some dogs will be extremely fearful. So if this rule worked, like a calm person means a calm dog, why somebody who has 4 dogs have completely different dogs? It would just not work. And somebody might stretch facts and say like, oh, what if this person treats this dog differently? I'm sure maybe in one household it can be like that, but most of the time, if you have multiple dogs, if you have a history of having like dogs for, 10, 20 years, most probably you don't really have like such a change in your personality when you're dealing with each dog. Another example that will even help to prove this point is somebody who works with multiple dogs. Let's say, in my experience, I do volunteer in SFSPCA. So I go in a shelter and I primarily work with dogs who have behavior issues, but sometimes I can go and take out the dog who has no issues. So I'm the same person, it's the same day, I have the same shift, and I go from kennel to kennel, I go inside, take the dog out, take them for a walk or a training session or socializing, whatever is in part of the plan. And all dogs will be different. So it's the same me, I'm, in the same mood. Of course, one dog can trigger my mood to change. But in general, like I have the same approach, the same skill, the same professional level to deal with dogs. But no matter what I do, even as a professional, some dogs will be extremely anxious, extremely fearful, easily triggered, easily overstimulated, and some dogs will be resilient and nothing will change them. The same example we can say about somebody who works in a daycare. They will tell you that there are multiple dogs in the daycare and they all act differently, no matter how the handler acts. The same, let's say it's a veterinary office where, the vet tech takes the dog, brings it to the room, to meet the veterinarian, and veterinarian would see several pets, and all the pets would act differently, no matter how they're handled in this particular environment. Again, it's not only how human acts, it's also something that the animal does. So let's go back to the example of one person owning several dogs and clearly seeing that all dogs have different resilience level, let's call it this way. So why is that? The person is the same calm person, or it can be the same anxious person, but all the dogs are different. Because besides the way how we handle dogs, we also have things like genetics. For example, we know for a fact that if the breeding mother, the mom of this puppy, was in a bad situation, experiencing lots of stress, lots of pain, lots of fear during the pregnancy or during the feeding the puppies, this will somehow be translated into puppy's temperament. They will be more fearful, they will be more scared. Another thing is a social skill. So if the puppy in an early age is not receiving proper social skills, they're not introduced to people, to different people, they're not introduced to other dogs, they're not introduced to different environments. Let's say the breeder, like a backyard breeder or a puppy mill breeder, like somebody who doesn't care about animals, just cares about the money. They put a dog in a cage, in a small room, and the dog spends the whole time there. And when the puppies are born, they spend the whole time there. Nobody plays with them, nobody interacts with them. This puppy will be more anxious, more fearful, less resilient, less confident, because they don't have a proper skill. So when these puppies, let's say, go to somebody who is a first-time owner, and of course, the person will be instantly worried about the puppy because they're going to notice like, oh, puppy's afraid of everything. Oh, puppy reacts to everything. So, of course, the person will be worried about the dog. And some trainers are going to say like, oh, look at you. You are worried about this puppy. That's why you made this puppy so fearful. Well, unfortunately, that's not quite true. The puppy was already predisposed to be like that. So to just summarize this part one more time, you did not create your dog anxiety. Because I've seen plenty of situations when the pet parents will be nonchalant, calm, they would not even pay attention to their dog in a moment, and the dog would go in a crazy reactivity or crazy aggression. So these things are not as linked as some people might tell you, but But do poor handling skills contribute to the problem? Yes, they do. It is still true that we somehow, the way how we act and the way how we behave, not just how we feel, but also how we behave based on these feelings, can trigger certain things in other dogs. And I'm going to give you the explanation and examples. But before we go there, we have to understand, because I don't want somebody here to say, yes, but I said that anxious people make anxious dogs. We have to distinguish something. If the dog is extremely resilient, very social, very, very friendly, just a stable dog, even if the anxious person will walk this dog or take this dog for play, this dog would probably be absolutely fine because they have a skill to just be confident, be happy-go-lucky no matter who walks them. But if we take a fearful dog who already has issues and then we pair this fearful dog with the anxious owner who does some things that, some mistakes that they don't even know they are mistakes, that's going to create a volatile connection. So it doesn't mean that this owner causing the dog to be fearful or anxious. It means that this person unfortunately making things worse. And this is important to talk about. So there is never, in dog training, there is almost never a black and white. So if somebody tells you this is like this and never like that, sometimes there are nuances, sometimes there are gray fields, sometimes there is a spectrum of things. So let's talk. In what situations an anxious person can make an anxious dog even more anxious, not make the dog anxious, but more anxious. Let me tell you 3 facts that we're going to use in this part. So the fact number 1, and this is factual, the dogs, they can sense what we feel. So this is not some mumbo jumbo, some woo esoterics or something. This is true. And the way how we know or how we can know that it's true, there are service dogs who are trained to recognize when the person about to have a seizure or when the person about to have a psychiatric meltdown or is about to have heart attack or the blood sugar goes up. So these are medical alert dogs. They're trained to recognize certain things and warn the person, alert the person. So dogs can definitely sense when we get stressed. Because dogs have very good sense of smell. So when we get stressed, something secretes, they can smell it. They can smell our anxiety, the way how we move, especially if it's our dog. Obviously, they notice when we are calm and speak normally and when we get anxious and when we start freaking out. So if we talk about dog has, stable, resilient dog, it doesn't mean if we freak out, they're also going to freak out. But how it works for the anxious dog, they're going to be like, my owner is scared. I guess we should be scared too, So they might feel like, if my owner is freaking out, I guess it makes sense to be freaking out too. If the dog is very stable and resilient, they're going to feel that we are stressed and they're going to be like, hey, pet parent, what's up with you? What's wrong with you? Another important fact. There is such a thing as a leash aggression. Maybe already if you deal with reactive dogs, maybe you noticed it. If you haven't noticed, pay attention to this. There are lots of dogs who are very reactive on leash. So let's say you walk your dog. Where's my dog? Where's my leash? I don't have a leash today. I know I don't have a leash. I have my dog on a leash. And every time we walk past another dog, my dog starts lounging, barking, growling. And then the same dog, if I let them off leash in a large field or park, they're going to see other dogs and they will be absolutely fine. And so what happens? Let's say this dog is afraid of other dogs. And let's say this dog normally, if the dog was off leash, they would see other dogs and they would just avoid them. They would just walk away, run away, make a large circle around that dog. But if this dog on a leash, they understand that, oh shoot, I can't go nowhere, I'm stuck. So it already makes them feel a little bit more tense. And then sometimes we as dog handlers, dog owners, or dog walkers, whoever we are, we can, send our dog into additional reaction. Because let's say I know for a fact my this dog is aggressive. So I walk my dog on the street, everything is fine. And then I see off-leash dog running at us. Of course, I'm going to freak out because I already had experience when things went bad. So I'm going to tense up and I'm going to pull the leash harder because I'm going to be like, oh shit, I need to hold my dog because something's going to happen. Unfortunately, it's very counterintuitive. So intuitively, we want to grab the leash and pull the dog towards us. Or if the dog, we know the dog chasing wildlife, maybe they chase cars and stuff like this. So as soon as we see something approaching, what we want to do, we want to instantly pull the dog back. And basically, yes, we'll launch the dog into aggression. So what we need to do instead of this intuitive pulling, we actually need to pay attention that we stay calm and keep the leash loose. You're better off, instead of dragging your dog back, teaching your dog, and this has to be a separate training done on a separate occasion, to get out. Actually, if I'm going to find some good videos, I'm going to link them below. There are different exercises that you can practice before you see triggers. So you just practice it at home or in the backyard so you can use them in real life. Or let's say if I'm walking like this, I'm going to tell my dog, let's turn, and we're going to turn and walk away. So this way, you keep the leash loose so you don't create this extra tension that's going to send your dog into reactivity. And also, if you practice this behavior before, you're going to be more calm and you will not trigger your dog. And the last but not least, the dogs learn through associative learning. So they associate certain things, especially if certain patterns repeat multiple times, the dog gonna learn. So what type of pattern am I talking about? For example, the dog learns every time you go on a walk, everything is nice, you're walking, the leash is loose, the dog is just like trotting next to you, and then let's say they see a cat and they want to chase a cat. But because you already know that the dog will try to chase the cat or maybe bark and lunge at something, so you preventively try to stop it and you pull the leash, just like we talked a minute ago. And the dog gets choked on the leash, especially if you walk a dog on a collar. Please, if you have a reactive dog, the dog who tends to, bolt on a leash to chase something, use a harness, well-fitted, good harness, maybe even with padding and stuff like this. Or if your dog is very heavy and you have a hard time controlling them, use a front pull harness or no pull harness or front clip harness. So back to our associative learning. So in this, what happens here? What type of associative learning we have? So the dog learns that every time I see a cat, I will be basically choked or pulled or dragged away. It's not pleasant, especially if the dog is sensitive to handling, sensitive to being, somehow pulled and dragged. So they're gonna start associating that trigger, cat, another dog, another person, as something negative. They're gonna already go for a walk, already riled up, because they're gonna know, like, I'm gonna see these people, my owner gonna jerk the leash, I'm gonna get choked, I'm gonna get dragged, or maybe even my owner starts like yelling at me, like, stop it, what are you doing? Stop it, shut it off, enough. Or even some bad owners gonna start spanking the dog because they're embarrassed that the dog is aggressive. So the dog gonna learn every time I see a person, I get beat up, I get spanked, I get choked, all these things happens. By the way, that's why I have this video that's called Stress-Free Walks for Reactive Dogs, when I tell you how to avoid triggers. And some people are like, come on, this is like, am I supposed to do this forever? Yeah, you want to have a stress-free walk for your dog, especially if you're not doing the training to reduce the reactivity, because every time you do this, you teach your dog, you see a trigger, you're gonna feel pain or discomfort or just intimidation, whatever. And the dog learns to hate those triggers more and more and more. Let's backtrack. If I'm an anxious person and I know for a fact that my dog gets in trouble, so I'm gonna be more vigilant, I'm gonna be more alert. What's happening? Where's the dog? Oh my God, people are coming through. Oh my God. So I'm going to be very stressed because I'm trying to prevent things from happening, not because I'm an anxious person who makes a dog anxious. No, I'm just the dog who knows my dog. I know there will be trouble. I'm trying to prevent this trouble. I also feel embarrassed in front of other people. So I'm just trying to prevent things from happening. But then inadvertently, I'm getting stressed. My dog knows I'm freaking out. They think like, oh shit, something is happening. Time to freak out too. Then I create leash aggression, because my dog has nowhere to go. Plus they being limited where they have move around. So they know like, oh, if I am attacked by this dog, I can't even go anywhere. So they get stressed by the fact that they're trapped on a leash. And then you add some stuff like, choking the dog, punishing the dog, yelling at the dog. So the whole thing, makes the dog reactive. And then it's perpetual circle because the dog going to get more reactive because of all these things. But you're going to get more anxious because oh my God, last time my dog attacked somebody. So the more reactive is your dog, the more anxious you're going to get, or more upset or more angry or more frustrated with your dog. But the more frustrated you are with your dog, the more stupid things you're going to do. And then the more your dog going to get aggressive. And it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. So in this respect, yeah, I can say like if you're acting excessively with your dog, if you just create trouble without even knowing it, you just create this trouble. Yeah, I can say like, oh, if you can be calm in this moment, your dog will be, more relaxed. Yes. So if you can be calm, maybe not 100% calm, but at least calmer than usual, it will help your dog. But it's not going to fix the issue. If you deal with a super aggressive dog, if you deal with super easily frustrated dog, if you deal with a dog who chases everything, if you deal with a dog who's just reactive to all things around them, just you being calm will not fix this dog. It will help the dog and it's going to improve certain things, but it's not going to fix the issue. To finish this video, 4 tips, because we want it to be a little bit practical. Yes, it is useful to stay calm, and you have to proactively look for ways to be calm. So if you need to walk your dog in an empty area or go for a walk at 5 a.m. when nobody's there so you are less stressing out, do it. It's good for you. It's good for your dog. Second, you didn't make your dog anxious, most probably. Maybe you didn't make it worse in the moment, or maybe you are making it worse, but you didn't create the problem? Most probably not. Unless you're beating your dog, unless you're yelling at your dog all the time, unless you're punishing your dog, intimidating all the time. If you don't do these things, if you have a good relationship with your dog, you're taking care, you're providing all the dog needs, and your dog is still anxious and fearful, you didn't create this problem. But you can still work on this problem. You can hire a good trainer, ideally force-free trainer, behavior consultant, veterinary behaviors, and you can work through management and training and other steps. Tip number 3. In order for you to be less stressed, in order for your dog to be less anxious, you need to practice certain situations that can happen. For example, if you get stressed when off-leash dogs approach you, you need to practice and you need to know exactly what you're going to do. For example, you can teach your dog to go behind you, especially if you have a smaller dog, you to go between your legs. So the dog is with you, and then you use something to actively protect yourself from the dog. If you live in an area where there are lots of leash dogs or street dogs, some people even use umbrella. So you basically just want to open an umbrella, the one that has a button, in front of the other dogs, and you're going to do like this so dogs can't approach you. But this is extreme. Let's say if you have lots of street dogs. Also, you want to practice how you're going to quickly get out of the situation on a walk where there is even no triggers even present. You're going to just tell your dog, let's go this way. And you're going to turn around and leave. Jump into, some driveway or hide behind the fence. So you want to practice first, not in a real life situation, but you want to get the skill. So when the real situation happens, you're not panicking because you know exactly what to do, and you also practice it because it's very important. It's like, imagine if you're doing public speaking. If you have no public speaking skills, unless you practice your speech at home, first in front of the mirror, then maybe in front of a friend, you're probably going to freak out so much during the public speaking that you're not going to be able to deliver this speech. That's why we practice it. This is the same story. You want to practice it in a quiet area. So when you go to the real life, you have practiced it so much that it's not a problem for you. And don't just sit there and say like, oh, but I don't know what to do when like a off-leash dog approach me. Like literally go and research. I don't know, go to Google, go to YouTube, go to Reddit, go to Instagram. If some trainers do Q&As, ask them that. Maybe go where other pet parents share their experience. For example, on Reddit, lots of people share their experience, what they do. You have to understand not all of this advice will be useful, not all of this advice will be safe. So you learn useful skills. The more you learn your dog's body language, the more confident you will be. Because the issue, you get anxious because you feel like, oh, everything was fine and then my dog exploded. No, if you learn the dog body language, you would probably notice even before your dog exploded that, oh, the ears are getting too alert. Oh, there is a hair on the back, hackles. Oh, my dog is freezing. Oh, my dog is giving a weird stare to the other dog. So in this case, for example, let's say I'm with my dog and I see my dog is giving somebody a hard stare. In this case, if I'm practicing my skills, I can either take my dog away, or sometimes if I see another dog and my dog staring at each other, what I would do, let's pretend this is me. I'm just going to step in front of my dog and I'm going to face the other dog. So my dog will be behind me. So I'm just going to step in front. Sometimes they call it body splitting. So basically I'm going to cut this stare of two dogs by just stepping in front. And then if the other dog wants to approach, I can say like this, or I can sometimes what I do if I have treats on me, if I work with client dogs, I usually have treats on me. So I'm going to grab some helpful treats and just toss it to this other dog, and then I'm going to walk away. So there are lots of little things you can do. If you learn lots of these things in your toolbox, that's going to help you to be more calm. Okay, stay calm, train your dog, and see you in my next video. If you have any questions, you can ask them in the comments.